Hey all, here's my crits video for the first week of the game art assignment. I'm still coming off a cold and smoke poisoning, so forgive my voice. Um, Gonna lead off with a note for everybody, I guess. FBX files. Referring to the sheet here, it says due Friday on drive, proxy model in FBX format. I made it red for dramatic effect because right now I only have FBX files from two people, I think. So if I'm putting on my professional hat for a second, this stuff that's due is basically bare minimum requirement. In a real studio, you would probably have to deal with putting something in the correct folder structure, adhering to a naming convention, making sure you contact everyone who needs to know you turn something in, etc. So, like if this was a professional environment, if everyone on the team is doing 20% to 70% of what they're supposed to do, that's unacceptable. Nothing's ever going to get done. So obviously people make mistakes and that's not the end of the world, but you want to be the exception to the rule. Um, you want that to be the exception to the rule. So, in the future, just be diligent about checking the requirements and turning in everything that's asked for. A lot of you have Unreal screenshots, so I know you're not behind. You made an FBX. I just need it on the drive. So let's get started. Mike, you have your model in Unreal, which is awesome. Dishonored is a fantastic looking game, so nice choice. You should have real life photo reference in here of the table that you're adapting to look like Dishonored. I assume that somewhere you have it. If you don't, then try to find something similar to your blockout, I guess. Since you're in the rough stage, it should be pretty quick to course correct at this point or whatever. But yeah, nice job. Make sure you have your photo reference and make sure you turn in FBXs for Wednesday. Casey, the treasure chest. So last time on the 9th, I believe, I gave some feedback about your reference here. Specifically, what I want for this assignment is a collection of real-life photo reference of an object. So in this case, photos of real treasure chests. And separately from that, screenshots of a specific game whose style you want to emulate. So there's some issues here. One is I don't know what game you're doing. You have a screenshot of Skyrim here and what looks like World of Warcraft. I said last week I don't think World of Warcraft would be a good one and recommended some other games that you could look at. The other problem is to sort of go in depth on what I was saying last week. Basically, none of these treasure chests are real. This is a toy or a stage prop object. This is real, but it looks like it may have been made by sort of a amateur trying to make a sort of piratey looking thing. Doesn't look very well made or historical. This is a 3D model somebody made, obviously. Another 3D model. Another 3D model, 3D model, another like toy or a stage prop kind of thing, Halloween maybe. And then this is sort of an illustration. So basically all of these are someone's interpretation of a pirate chest, and all of them are leaning pretty hard on sort of cliche, right? The Skyrim one is probably the most interesting, but you don't really want to copy Skyrim. And I think part of the problem here, so none of them are giving you an authentic representation of a treasure chest. And I think part of the reason for that is that a treasure chest is like a fake idea. It's a cartoon, right? Because nobody in the 1700s said, I'm going to build a treasure chest. They said, I'm going to build a chest for storage, probably. So like if you're searching for treasure chest, you're obviously going to get a bunch of cartoons. Like this is the worst offender, right? And I see like you picked out probably the best ones from these search results, but they're still cliches. This is like commercial kitsch, and you don't want to copy cliches because then your own stuff will be even more cliched. And like if I even search for real treasure chest, it's still there's no such thing as a treasure chest, right? So probably still gonna get sort of these comedy prop objects. Um, so, what do you do? I did some Googling a while ago, and basically what I did was sort of imagine that I'm a historian or something who's not interested in pirates, but I am interested in sort of chests of this vintage. So what would I search for? I tried Victorian chest, And this is extremely ignorant because I don't think Victorians were existent at the same time as pirates. But, it's a place to start. And I see, okay, I'm getting a lot of chests of drawers, which isn't what I want. But I look at, you know, this picture. Okay, what does it say? Storage trunk. So maybe I search for Victorian trunk. And now I'm getting something a lot closer to what I want. And maybe I want to correct sort of the time period. So maybe I'll search for 18th century trunk. And now, okay, I'm getting much, much closer to sort of the pirate treasure chests that I am imagining. Like this is nice. And some of these are probably going to still be, kitsch, fake, vintage stuff, but some of them will be real. And, if you just go through it, you're probably going to find some really interesting, useful stuff. Like this is awesome. So there's sort of some lateral thinking involved in researching for objects like this. You have to sort of go around the cliche that will be easily accessible to you when you start out. So you end up with a much better set of reference images, and before you do the final model on Wednesday, you will need to pick a specific game to emulate that's not World of Warcraft, and pick one of your new photo reference chests to base your model off of, because the one in the Unreal screenshot, this one still a blackout, but I think it looks the most similar to this one, which is somebody's portfolio piece, and obviously we can't do that. So yeah, look at some of these photo references and try to, think of more search terms, more ways you could phrase it, dome top trunk, whatever, and try to collect some really interesting and high-res stuff. I think that'll be really helpful. Okay. The gun. I remember the gun. Okay. So have it in Unreal. Have your reference. This is good. Yeah, this is really, really good. So I have the blockout, and this is basically sort of an ideal blockout. This is exactly what a blockout should be doing. You have all the pieces in place. There won't be any surprises, I assume, with this model. And now you can sort of go in and start auditing the model, like asking questions like, is this necessary to be geometry? Can you bake it into the normal or something? Does this need more sides? It might, this groove, can you afford to take this out of the geometry on the low poly and bake it in as a normal map? Do you need to, obviously you need to cut, some of this stuff out. This, I think, could use more edges, to round it off, and then maybe you can, you're already close to your target poly count, so you can sort of make those trade-offs and say, okay, I need to cut some here so that I can add more somewhere else, and so basically you're in a really good place to do it. And I will talk more about this in the lesson video. I think I'll use this for some demo stuff. Your question about attaching the gun to the character model in Unreal is a very good question, and I will do a separate video about that because it's kind of in-depth, and I would like to get into it. All right. Brett's phonograph. This is looking nice. As mentioned before, I need the rest of the files. I can sort of see it, but this is pretty low res, as is inevitably the case with these types of pictures. I'm interested in if you baked lighting. Not sure what's going on there. It looks like that might be a thing. But yeah, I mean, last week you had some good reference and you have a good blockout now. So you should be in good shape to finish the high poly and low poly by Wednesday. Just need more files next time. Mary's chair. I don't have a ton of feedback on this one. Just about everything is on track and correct. The only thing is the FBX that you have on the drive. I imported it into a couple different versions of Maya and also Unreal 4.19, and in all of them it was missing the feet. I'm not sure if that's a compatibility problem that's happening or if you just didn't grab all the meshes when you exported it, but on Wednesday it'll be really important that I get the models to look at, in complete form, so just maybe double check that next week. or and you could also turn in an OBJ in addition to the FBX if you need sort of a failsafe. There's some interesting challenges in doing an asset like this that I will talk about later on in the lesson video. How would you deal with sort of the combination wood and fabric and stuff. So there's some interesting things there. But yeah, talk about that in the next video. Nice work. And Jeremy, so I was hoping for a work in progress SBS material that I could look at. Without that, there's not a ton that I can talk about. What I was going to say for this week was the most important thing in Substance Designer is getting a good height map. Making sure your shapes are good before you start adding color and roughness on top of it. So for Wednesday, what you should do is take a 50% gray and throw that on your base color and your roughness. And you can use, you want to have your normal, your height, and your AO connected. And then what I like to do is go in and turn on tessellation and then just sort of crank that pretty significantly so that I can see a visual representation of sort of the shapes that I'm building. Obviously, this isn't how it's going to look in your final game, but you're visualizing basically what you're doing with the normal map, and that's really helpful. It's almost like sculpting at this point. So yeah, if you can get a really nice height map, normal map, and AO by Wednesday, I think you'll be in good shape to move forward. All right. Okay, so something like this always happens. Computers never work. My game industry tip here is that we try to always plan for this kind of trouble and work it into the schedule. Just expect that it will happen, basically. In this case, the assignment was given out about 2 weeks ago. So the ideal thing to do would be to try and install and run Unreal as soon as you get the assignment, just to, check that it works. And at that point, you discover that it's not working and you have 2 weeks to fix it. You can look for help online, talk to classmates or Tom or me, or whatever. Obviously, if you don't try to run it until the day the assignment's due, then you're going to create an emergency with a lot of stress and headache for yourself, and that sucks. So that's just something to keep in mind moving forward. It's actually why I wanted people to get Unreal running in the first week, just because I was anticipating something like this happening to at least a couple people. So now we know it's an issue and we can act on it. For this specific error, I googled it a little bit. You want to make sure you're running the launcher in administrator mode so that it can actually install prerequisites. You can try to circumvent it by going to your Unreal folder and launching the Unreal Engine.exe instead of using this Epic Games launcher, and that way it will bypass the prerequisites. You could try installing a different version of Unreal. That's not ideal, but it's an option. Make sure you have enough disk space. Sometimes when installers fail, it's because you didn't realize it, but you just are out of space. And lastly, just keep searching that error message and trying anything that people suggest on the help threads, which it looks like you're doing already. If it's still not working, by Monday, then maybe try and get it done on a school computer if you can. Maybe try to work with somebody else on getting it in their copy of Unreal. Get in touch. Let's try to find a solution and not have it be, a last-minute emergency on Wednesday morning, because that'll hurt you a lot down the line as far as, just staying on track with this assignment. The reference, so this is a good object to make, but this reference image is really tiny. You can't really see anything useful from it. It's very possible to find a bigger and better reference than this. So, if you go to Google image search and I type fire hydrant, here's my results. This one is the same picture that you have, but it's 4,000 pixels wide. So if I open that, that's actually a great reference. So, just try to spend a little more time on reference gathering. If you're getting too many small images, you can go to Tools and set your image size to large. and that will give you a lot more large images that will be, more useful as reference material. Same as I said with Casey's project is, you will get a lot of cartoon fire hydrants and other people's 3D models. Try to avoid those if you can, just because, you don't you want to copy from life and not from other people's copies. Yeah. Also, don't forget that you need to pick a game that you're going to emulate and collect reference screenshots of that. You will need that stuff moving forward, so try to include it on Wednesday with your model. Yeah, and that's all my feedback. I'm going to make a video on some procedures and stuff on generating a good high poly and low poly, which will be due this coming Wednesday. I know that's pretty quick, but if you have a good blockout, you should be able to generate the high and low polys from that without too much trouble. All right, see you later.